Hello! I'm so glad you've joined me today to paint. I love having a bit of company. Today we're going to have a great bit of fun, I think, making this colorful Jellybean Row house painting. Very, very reminiscent of St. John's, Newfoundland. Quite famous for its colorful houses. And of course, quite famous for its hills. Um, and this is the colors that I chose, but you know what? You can go by any color. You can outline it with a little ink if you like. You can have all kinds of fun. But I really thank you for joining me today, and I think we'll have a good time painting this. Let's get started. Now, before we get started, I just want to say how much I absolutely adore these Princeton Velvet Touch brushes. As someone who does a lot with their hands, mine are frequently dry, and because these have a little bit of a grip on them, they're brilliant when I'm painting. Nothing slips. It's awesome. I love them. Thank you so much for creating these. So today I'm primarily going to use my 4 and my 2. And possibly my 10/0 rigger, because there's some little tiny parts in there too. And if you want to pause the video and sketch out your row houses, this is a great time to do that. And I'll go and pause for a second. However, if you're not someone who enjoys sketching, or you'd rather have it laid out all ready to go, not to worry. You can pick up one of my art kits on my website or on my eBay shop. Comes with everything you need: your colors, a palette, brush, reference photo, instructions, and of course your art's already laid out for you, and there's a test sheet in there too, and you're good to go. Awesome. All right, let's get started. First things first, we're going to give our watercolors a little charge with some water. So spray bottle or a couple of drops off your brush. Yeah, it has to come with the noise. There we go. And that actually kind of boosts the vibrancy of your colors, which is really nice. And we're actually going to start with a little bit of a sky around the top, because that's pretty light and in the furthest space away from us. So what we're going to do is put a little water on there first. So I lied, I'm going to use a bigger brush too for that. So we'll put a little bit of water. And if you're using the kits and you're a little bit worried about the gray outline of the images, you'll notice that it kind of fades right away with the bit of water when you start to paint. You won't even notice them at the end. Handy, of course. And I'm just kind of pushing that water loosely around the top of the painting. Don't worry about your birds. And around the top of those trees. And then we're going to take some of that blue, and starting closest to the trees and the buildings, we'll touch a little bit into that water and let the water do its thing and spread it out. We'll leave that a little bit loose so that it's just a nice sunny blue sky day in downtown St. John's. And if you find it's getting a little dry in some places, or you've got a little white space left somewhere, that's okay too. They can be clouds off in the distance. You can always add a little bit more water. This is kind of a loose spot, so you make it look like anything you want. And importantly, always remember to be kind to yourself. Everyone's is going to look a little different, and that is a good thing. There we go. So we've got a little bit of a sky going. Now, while that dries, we're actually going to put the bit of a sidewalk in. Okay, so a little bit of water in your palette and a little bit of your black. Not a whole lot, just a little bit. And then I touch it with a little bit of yellow. So it makes this kind of, I want to call it like a concrete kind of color, but it looks like that kind of. And we're going to take that and run all the way up our sidewalk. And again, keeping it a little bit loose. St. John's is very much a hilly city, so this is why our houses are on a steep hill. There we go. We'll let them dry a little bit, and then we'll move on with our trees. Now, our sidewalk has dried nicely, our sky's dried nicely, so we're going to work on our trees, and starting with this one up here behind the roofs of your houses. And you're going to get that tree a little bit wet. Again, just kind of a loose wet. And you're going to put some green in there in the middle. Nice and loose. And the water that's down, we're doing a little bit of wet on wet, is going to dilute that green a little bit, which is quite nice. And we'll come down right between those. Then we're going to rinse your brush a little and get a little of your yellow on there. And while it's still nice and wet, put some of that yellow on your top edges. And it kind of gives the impression of the sun coming through the thinner leaves around the top. So it gives your tree a little bit of dimension, a little bit of interest. And if you want to darken up your tree, you absolutely can. And go back in with a little bit more green in a few spots. And sort of fluff out your tree a little bit. There we go. When that dries and it charges together, it's going to look really pretty. So, same kind of deal with this big tree on the end. We'll get a little bit of water on there. Just kind of messy. Doesn't need to be super tidy. All the way down like that. And you're going to put a little bit of your green again towards the middle. And along the side of your building. And if you can avoid the trunk of the tree, that's cool. If you can't, don't worry about it, because you'll still see it when we paint over top. So there's no stress with that. There, we've got lots of nice green. And give it a rinse and get some of our yellow. Put that through the top there. And then I'm going to sort of pick a spot part way down, like the sun is coming through in there too. And pull that around to add a little bit of interest. There we go. And then darken up a couple of spots. Because some parts of your tree are going to be a little bit thicker than others, so they'll be a little bit darker. There we go. And you can see where this one is almost dry, and it gives that nice sort of loose tree effect. And our last little tree is this one down here. So again, same process. Some water on there. And some of your green. I know I've probably said it before, but if you don't have the exact same colors I'm using, as I noted before, that's okay. Use the ones you have and go for it. The whole idea is just to get you creating, which is a good thing. And a little bit of yellow on the edges. Ooh, that's a lot of yellow. That's okay. little rinse, and I'm going to get a little bit more green on there to make that a little darker around the inside. And cat hair. There we go. And we'll let that dry. And it's already sort of starting to take shape to be this nice little landscape, which I think would be lovely. So we'll let those dry, and then we'll move on to the rooftops on our houses. Now, our trees have dried nicely, and we're going to make some various colors of rooftops. If you still have some of this sidewalk color left, you can add a little bit of black to that and create a roof color. So you can see it's got a little bit of a darker one. And then as we go along, just to add a little bit of variety, we'll add a little bit more black and a little bit more and make a couple of different shades so that there's a bit of interest there, which is kind of nice. Now, if you'd rather paint them all the same color, go for it. All good. Whatever works for you. So this lighter color I'm going to put on this end house at here. So I'll cross my top of my house and let that fill in. And then I think I'm going to use a little bit of that lighter gray for this chimney down here. And there we go. And then I'll make a little bit of a darker shade of that color, add a little bit more black so that it looks maybe a little bit more. There we go. So with that darker color, I'm going to go around a different rooftop. Let's see. Maybe this middle one. A little bit too much water on my brush, but you can see it. If I just go back over the top of it like that, fills it right in. No big deal. Not going to ruin anything. And with that darker color, I am going to paint this chimney up here. Again, to create a little bit of interest. And maybe this one here. Here we go. And darker once again. Yeah, a little bit darker maybe. Oh, nice. Okay. That's a good one. So we'll put that one on maybe this first one down here. Maybe could have used a bigger brush because it's a little bit more real estate around there. But I'm going to keep working on my wet edge so that I don't end up with any dry spots. And if I do, it's a rooftop. And rooftops are kind of hard looking, so that's okay. And we'll fill that in. There we go. There you are, made. Okay, lovely. And we'll let those dry a little while we do the last couple. So we got two left, and I'm going to make one that's really dark and one that's kind of dark, but with a little bit of brown. So I'm going to put some right in with that black, or that mix that we had for our sidewalk, so that it looks a little bit different again. And I'm going to put that around one of these roofs. Let's see. let's put that one around this nice one with the big circle window. And again, if I end up with some dry spots or I end up painting over a little bit of the window frame, that's okay. We can always go over it again. We can lighten it up. Now to make that look like it's got maybe a few little shingles or something in it, I'm going to pull a couple little highlights. I rinsed my brush and dabbed it off a little, just to give it a bit of variety in that rooftop. There we go. I think that'll add a little bit of interest. Kind of cute. And our last one, we're going to put lots and lots of black in that mix. We have a nice dark rooftop for our last one. Let's see. A little bit more again, maybe. Yeah, there we go. Darker again. Okay, nice. So we'll go around the little windows. There we go. We'll fill that in. Yeah. Now I still have a little bit on my brush, and I think what I'm going to do to add a little bit of interest on this last one is just make a little bit of a line at the bottom, like it's a lip or an edge or something. There we go. So then there's a little bit of detail, and I'm going to paint in this chimney right here. Go. And we'll let those rooftops dry, and then we'll go on to our windows. Now before we move on to our windows though, we're going to do our tree trunks, and we're going to mix up a nice brown with some red and yellow and a little bit of your black, and you'll end up with this nice tree trunk brown. And I'm going to use my rigger brush, but the brush that comes in your kit's got a nice point on it, so that'll work as well. And I'm going to come down and make some branches on my trees. And you don't have to follow the artwork that's there. You can make your own. You can go your own way. Yes, we're all singing that in our head now too. Come right down to the ground with it so that they're anchored. There we go. Maybe there's a little branch stuck up here as well. And these little ones down here. There we go. That finishes out our trees, and maybe we'll put some branches in these ones back here too. There. Okay, so that finishes off our trees. And now we're going to do our windows. And some of these windows have some flowers in front of them, which is lovely. And some of them are just regular plain old windows, which is lovely too, because you're going to get a nice reflection off the sky. And St. John's is a waterfront city, so it's got a big old harbor to reflect in there too. So what we're going to do is, again, a little bit of wet on wet, and we're going to mix a little bit of our blue in our palette with a bit of water, a little bit of blue, so it's not terribly dark, and then a tiny touch of your black. And black is a very highly pigmented color, so just a tiny, tiny bit. You want it to just kind of take the edge off the vibrancy in your blue. So it's going to look a little bit like a gray blue. A little bit like that. Let's see. Yeah, kind of like that. So that you'll go in and put a little bit of water in your window frame, and then loosely touch with that gray blue color and let the water do the work for you. And if you find you've got a bit too much in there, you can always lift it out. If you find you don't have enough, you can always wet it again and put a bit more in there. And if you make a little variety in how you add your blue, it makes for some nice interest too. That one's a little bit dry in the middle, and a little bit of white space is not a bad thing either, because that looks quite nice. There we go. And I'll do the front window in the house. There we are. And this little shape in the door is actually a cutout of storm doors that go over the top. So it's not actually a window, it's just going to be a darker spot on that door. So that one's okay. And up here in the roof, we've got two little dormer windows. So we'll do those as well. When we get to painting the siding on the house, we're going to do those little points in the same colors, because I think that'll look really pretty. So same process as we move along. We're going to do our windows on each of the houses. So there's our round window and upstairs windows in this house. And we'll go, oh, whoa, that was way too dark. Yikes. That's okay, we're going to fix that. Rinse off my brush, put a bit more water on it and just pull it around. Done, no biggie. There it is on the top. There we go. Saved. And then this big window in the bottom. And the one in the door. Now, if you'd rather have your windows nice and dark, by all means, go for it. Or if you'd rather have them light, you can do that too. That's the fun part about being the artist. You get to decide. And we'll put some water in these windows. It's a little bit too much in that top one, so we'll steal some and put it down there. That's just going to be watery all over the place. There we go. Take my water brush and move that around a little so it doesn't look so boxy and intentional. There we go. And then these windows, and the big tall windows, and a bay window, which usually has a seat on the inside so you can sit out into the window and watch the world, which is lovely. just going to put a little bit of blue in these little windows here. And I forgot, actually, sometimes there's a little window above the door. So I think I'll do those as well. Some of them, not all of them. So let's see, let's do this one. And maybe we'll do that last one when we get up there too. Okay. Oh, yes. I dropped a bit of water on that roof. I'll have to fix that up after. Okay, so a little bit of water in these windows. A little bit of our window color. I'm just dabbing off the color and then lifting out some of the center with my damp brush versus a wet brush or a dry brush. And then some more in these windows. Not quite enough water in those. Okay. And we can fix that with a bit of water. There we go. And we're going to do these two little windows up here, little dormers. There we go. And last but not least, this tall house on the end. So we'll come in with a little bit of water in the window. And I'm actually going to fall short of the little plants that are in front of the window because they're going to be in front of the glass, so they won't see the reflection. So I'll stop part way down. Because when I go to put those plants in, I want you to be able to see those. So I'll stop right about there. And same with this one. Some plants and plants. I'm going to blame that on not enough coffee today. There we go. And if you happen to go too far down and you get a little bit over your plants, that's okay. You're going to paint over the top of it. Don't worry about a thing. Just a little bit of water on that one. Not quite all the way down for my plants. And we're going to do that little window over the door. Like that. Okay. Oh, I missed the window in this door. Okay. That's all right. We're still going. There we go. Nice long one. We had one like that in our door when I was a kid. And I'll tell you a little secret. I cracked it one day when my sister and I were having a fight. Oh, I'm letting it all out today. All right, so we'll let our windows dry and then we'll move on to some of the little work in the foundation. And we're getting towards the end, which is great. Okay, our windows are almost dry with a little bit of that reddy brown that I've got left there. I'm going to fill in some of these chimney tops. Ooh, that's a bit much in the way of water. go. Let's see if we can lift some of that up. Yeah. There we are. Okay. So that works well. And we're going to take a little bit of our green and make a little bit of grass around the bottom of our trees. And we'll pretend that the grass is like super green all year round. Which, if you've ever been to Newfoundland, you'll know it's not. But that's okay. We're good with it. There we are. Now, while we're letting our windows dry completely, we're going to put in some of our little foundations down at the bottom. So we're going to make a little bit of that gray again. A bit of water and a bit of your black. And maybe a touch of your blue. And you'll get sort of a blue-gray color. But like on the pale end of things, so it looks a little bit like that. There we go. And because they're built into a hill, they have to put the foundation in, level it out, and then build up from there. So everything's always on an angle. But you know what? It's kind of fun. So we're going to go right over those stairs because we're going to pretend that those are concrete stairs as well. And then this one here has concrete and then stairs that kind of come out away from the building. And we'll create that dimension in a minute when this dries too. There we go. And this one has a little bit of a concrete foundation. And those stairs are going to be wooden, so we'll leave those ones. A little piece of foundation right there. And this one is also a little bit of foundation and then some separate stairs. There we go. And this one's got a little bit of a wooden box in front of the foundation, so we're going to leave that and use some of our brown. Just gives it a little bit of a difference. And variety's kind of cool. So we'll use that little bit of brown we've got there. And if you don't have any left, little red, little yellow, makes a bit of an orange, and then a touch of your black, and you'll get this kind of woody brown color. Now I got that in there. I'm going to rinse my brush and tap it off a little and just lift out the middle to give those boards a little dimension. There we go. Awesome. Okay, so there's our foundations. And this is a good time to kind of think about which house you want to paint which color. Houses in Newfoundland in general, but in St. John's are extremely colorful. If you ever have the chance to look up New Gower Street in particular in downtown St. John's and get the drone footage, you'll see it is hugely colorful. It is just amazing. And it's very welcoming, very happy. I feel kind of very lucky to live here. Even though I'm just outside St. John's, I'm close enough. Okay. Let's see. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue. Yeah. So red, orange, yellow, green, and blue. I think that'll be fun. That's the order that I'm going to do mine in. You can do yours all the same color. You can do yours any combination of color, however you would like to do it. All good. So I'm going to start with, because I'm right-handed, this one furthest over on the left so that I'm not dragging my hand through painted stuff. So I'm going to make sure that my red is good and wet and charged up and ready to go. Yeah. There we go. And let's make sure, yep, those are nice and dry. And I'm going to go all the way around the windows and around the door, but not on the door. Because maybe we'll do those a little bit of a different color. I don't know. We'll see. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. The whole idea is just getting you creative. A little bit of therapy. A little bit of freeing your mind. And letting that artist out of your brain a little bit. So be kind to yourself. Enjoy what you're doing. Try not to compare yourself to others, because that'll just wreak havoc on your sanity. You can learn tons and tons and tons of things from other artists. But we're all in the same spot. And everybody's is different, and that's the joy of it. There we go. I'm going to go back in and just put a couple of little strokes from side to side, just to give the impression that maybe there's some wood siding on there, which of course, no doubt there is. Okay, so there's my red one. That's my brush off. And while that's drying, rather than doing the one right next to it, just in case, because I'm afraid it might bleed, I'll do this one up here, which is my yellow one. So red, orange, yellow, green, blue. Yeah, so this is my yellow one. So again, I'm going to charge up that yellow. Make sure it's nice and wet, ready to go. And again, I'm going to go all the way around the windows and leave the door, because again, I might do that a different color. And I think I might even leave that bar there at the top a different color. Let's see. Let's get the yellow one there and see what it looks like first. Lovely. And there, okay. It's starting to look really nice and colorful. I like it. I like it. This is going to be our greenhouse. So this is going to be our blue house. So again, we'll skip one and do this guy on the end. And we'll get our blue all charged up and ready to go. And because we've got flowers and greenery around these windows, you want to be a little bit fussy about getting in close to those flowers and window boxes that are on the side. So try and avoid those a little bit as you go. Now if you happen to hit them, no big deal. No big deal. And there's some little flowers in the garden wall at the bottom too. So I'm going to try and avoid going over those ones. So that they'll stand out a little bit too. There we go. I'm just going to go back in with a little bit more color because of course it's much darker at the bottom than it is at the top, and that's okay. go. So we've got 3 houses, the base of them colored. Let's see. With this yellow one, I think I'm going to do that window frame in the yellow too. I think that'll be really pretty. Yeah. There we go. And this bottom one here, we're going to do the top of those dormers in the same red. Yeah. And while I got some nice bright red on there, I'm just going to go right over top of each of these windows. Like there's a little bit of a frame around them. There we go. Give it a rinse. Now, let those dry a little bit. And then we'll go back in and do, oh, I know what we can do. In between, we can add a little dimension to our stairwells that are at the bottom down here. So we've got little stairs right there. And we've got some stairs with little stonework in here. And basically it's just the same gray, a little bit extra of the black just to give it a little bit more dimension. And I'm just adding a couple little details over the top to make them stand out a little. There we go. And then the same with our bit of brown. If you've got some of your little brown left, I'm going to give the indication that maybe there's boards on there. Yeah. Now I think, now we get to decide the accent colors for those two once we get the other ones done. Yeah. Okay, so we'll let those dry a little bit. There we go. Now we'll let that dry a little bit. We're going to put the orange on our orange house, and you can see there's little pieces that come down from that little framework, and if you can avoid them, great. They're pretty tiny. I'm going to try it. If I can't, well, again, it's not going to ruin anything. We'll just go over top of it. And you can make those little pieces part of your accent color. You can leave them white. You can paint them anything really. And again, I'm going all the way over the wood siding of the front of the house. And I'm leaving the door because I'm going to make that door a different color, I think. Rinse, and then I'm going to paint that little window frame at the top. And even though some of the roof color made it over the top of that frame, you'll still get the idea. There we go. And then this one's going to be green, so we'll charge up our green. There we go. Go all over the front. I'm going to leave those two little window covers a different color, I think. I think. There we go. All the way down with our green. I'm going to go through that window bit in the middle, like there's two of them there. There we go. Got a little bit on my window there. I'm gonna lift that out with a bit of rinse. There we go. There, so that's on there for the most part. Now these are getting really nice and colorful. Okay. Yay. So I think now we get to decide what our accent colors can be. Could be fun. I think I'm gonna do wood trim on that brown one. Sorry, on the blue one, and make it brown. So I'm gonna make a nice sort of reddy brown. So a little bit of red, a little bit of yellow, get you a nice orange, and then a little touch of black, and you'll end up with sort of a nice smooth brown. There we go. And I think I'll do my window boxes brown. I'm leaving space for the plants I'm going to put in there, and I'm going to do that doorway brown. And those again are storm doors that shut over the front of the main door. So we'll give it a base coat first, and then we'll add our details after. There we go. Just going to lift out some of that heavy pigment in there so that they move to the background a little bit. And then I think I'm going to make this door brown as well, because those windows, those three little circly windows in the door remind me of the doors in the 70s that had those little round windows. And they were always those big, heavy wooden doors that you'd often nab your toe in while you were trying to get in and out with your bike. There we go. Okay. Now, I think I'm going to do a bit of orange trim on the green, because I think that'll be nice and vibrant. So we'll go in on our little dormers. Yeah. And put in some orange. And on our doorway. And we're going to say that this box up here is painted in too. There we go. That's our trim on our greenhouse. And let's see. We could put green trim on our orange house. And that'll kind of tie it all together too. That'll be really nice. So let's give this a bright green door. One of my really good friends in high school, actually, he was my high school sweetheart, worked at a great little restaurant called the Blue Door, and it was just a regular little house on the outside like this with a beautiful bright blue door, and man, they had the best Caesar salad. Oh, the garlic could just be pouring at you, but it was so tasty. And he was a sweetheart. So I'm gonna frame this out a little bit and let that dry, and then we'll fiddle that in there. And I'm going to use my rigger brush to do these little pieces at the top because they're super narrow. think I'm gonna go across this window frame at the same time. Yeah, I like that. Let's do that on all these windows on this little house. Yeah, okay. Now, these little window boxes are dry, so we're going to put in some of our plants and flowers that are in there. So let's put in some put in some yellow plants. So we've got some little yellow flowers in there, and a little bit in there, and one or two along the bottom, and then some red ones. Lovely. Bit of our orange that we mixed up. I think will work for these. Yeah. And a couple down here. There we go. And we'll let those dry, and we'll put in some greenery around them, and that'll be lovely. Lovely. Ah, yes, we're going to do those. I think maybe the blue trim on that yellow house would be nice. So we'll get our blue, and we'll go across this board right here. And we're going to do these little pieces around the window. And I am going to go through the window with a bit of a framework. Like that. There we go. I like that. And I think the steps are going to be blue too. Yeah. We'll go around these window frames. And this one too. Yeah, okay, I like that one. Nice. I think we'll do yellow trim on our red house. Yeah. So we'll have this little box yellow at the top. And our storm doors will be yellow as well. And that'll be really nice. And then when that dries, we'll add a little bit more detail to that. And that'll fill in nicely, and we'll do a little bit of our detail on that storm door up here. So there's a brace at the top and a brace at the bottom, and then a piece that comes down and meets the two. And then there's that part sort of in the middle. There we go. Nice. Now, put a little greenery in those flowers. They're almost dry. I think that'll be nice. And we're close. We're so close. Let's put a little bit of green in here. And some little green stems under these. And then some greenery in here. And some in here. And some under the little flowers in the flower bed. Okay, oh, that filled out nice. That's cute. Cute, cute, cute. Okay. So with a little bit of our gray from our foundation, I'm going to make the sidewalk stand out just a little bit by just lightly coming across the top like that. Just so it gives it a little bit of dimension, which is nice. And I'll let our door dry a little bit more. Ah, I didn't do that board of the orange on the top of the greenhouse. There we go. So we'll go across here. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty good. So we'll get some nice, deep, heavy pigment yellow. And we'll go across the top here, down the middle, across the bottom, and then make our diamond shape in the middle. So it makes it just stand out just a little bit. Sorry, my voice is kind of trailing off. We just want it to stand out just a little bit. There we go. Okay. Now, last but not least, we're going to put in a couple of little birds. And truth be told, they're seagulls because we have a lot of those. So with a little bit of our gray or our black, we're going to go in with our rigger brush and say, there's a little one there. And another little one there. And let's make one more up here. There we go. Seagulls. Now then, this is the part where you sign your painting with pride, show it off to your friends and say, see this? This is St. John's, Newfoundland. Y'all should go there. Perfect. You know something? I just realized the railing isn't filled in. Never mind, don't sign it yet. Okay. I'm going to get our rigger brush again and our nice dark black color. And we're going to go in and put that railing in. Swoopy railing. There we go. Okay, now you can sign it. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really am so happy that you were here. I'm happy to share a little taste of where I grew up, which is St. John's. And I hope you enjoyed this colorful piece. Consider liking and subscribing to my channel because it helps out this gal on the East Coast so much. And I'm really very appreciative. And have a wonderful, wonderful day. And I'll see you next week. Thanks.